Wild Health is about optimizing you. We use genomics, blood work, biometrics, microbiome assessment, many other tests, and a conversation with you to come up with a full health optimization plan. What's the perfect diet, exercise, and supplement plan for you and only you? The Wild Health Podcast is about optimizing all of us. Here we cover the cutting edge science that gives you the base to be able to apply the personalized plan we give you as a patient. To sign up as a patient, go to wildhealth.com. Or if you're a physician or health coach and you want to learn how to do this for your patients, we're happy to help as well. Wildhealth.com for all the information on becoming a patient or working with us.
Dr. Carl Seger, so good to see you, buddy.
Thanks, Dylan. Good to see you, buddy. I didn't go with the skull cap today. I went with the Live Wild baseball cap.
It's all right. All hats are accepted and special in their own way.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I should diverge and not be too much of a fanboy of you.
Yeah, well, this will go into. I'm sure the word will leak out to the CEO, and this will go into your performance review in some way.
I'm sure.
Came without a beanie.
Yeah, well, I don't know how I'm going to respond to that feedback, but
yeah,
I want to talk
look
about
forward
play.
to hearing it.
You
want to
talk
about play? Yeah, let's talk about play.
Play.
We talked about laughter last time. Let's talk about play.
Haha. Let's. I want to talk about play because when this came to me, do you remember? I think you were at this company offsite where we often play at our company offsites, and we did the balls, those blow up balls where
inflatable bubble soccer.
Yeah, and speaking of our CEO, he decided to remove himself from that bubble and just full blower run at me and just cold cocked me.
It's amazing how you can really take somebody out in a bubble when you're not in a bubble.
Yeah, right, exactly. But we play a lot at those events. But when I realized when I'm at home, I was thinking about this. And when I'm at home, I don't play a lot. And then what solidified this more for me is I was walking to a store holding my 5-year-old's hand, and he's just skipping. And when you're like you're walking with someone, they're holding their hand, and they have a different cadence than you, it kind of like you're like, what's that? And I had this like deep thought of like, why am I just not skipping? Like, instead I'm just like, old man curmudgeoning this, sort of slightly hunched, walking through. And it's like, I skipped all the way to this store, which was like, we were like a ways away. And I started thinking like, well, that was like a pretty good, like little workout, like kind of thing. And I started thinking about play and researching the health benefits of play.
I love it. Yeah. And I know we're going to dive in, but I just want to say, I think it is physiologically and emotionally impossible to frown while skipping. I actually skipped myself like whenever this was 2-3 weeks ago when we were in Arizona. Yeah. We were going to a conference we were hosting, and I got to the event site a couple hours before I could check in, and I went on a hike nearby. And while I was hiking, I was like scampering across these rocks and just like, this is so fun. And I just started skipping, and I was like, I haven't skipped since I was a kid, and it's really fun. I don't know. There's something just amazing about playing, and we know we don't do it as adults, right? Like, what's our version of play as adults? We'll go skiing, or we'll, get together with friends for an event, or we'll, but like full bore playing, like building a pillow fort, skipping, that kind of stuff. Like, there's not a lot of time and room. Maybe there is time is the bottom line, but there's not a lot of attention to it. And I've definitely been lacking it, just goofing off and being a total goofy, playful kid.
Yeah, and like I think that what's interesting when you get into this, there's a ton of data about play and what play looks like for kids and how important it is in their development, not just for their brains but also their body, and how they learn to squat and like glute muscle strength and like coordination and then the mental social aspects of play that are so important for kids' development, that just doesn't stop like one day. Like you don't just hit 18 and, can vote and then you don't play anymore. And that's not like important for your health. It's kind of shown in the data. I mean, there's not a ton of data. It's not like this. Like there's not a lot of funding towards play research in adults.
You mean Hasbro hasn't funded a randomized controlled trial on,
right.
on
Big
board
Pharma's
games?
not into it. Yeah, no, totally. But there is like, I think the intellectual leap is not hard to realize that there's a psychological benefit to play from a decrease stress reduction and improved mood, and there's plenty of studies around that. But there are a lot of studies around that's more interesting around cardiovascular health and decreasing risk of cardiovascular disease, similar to laughter. Like it's people who play more like have lower blood pressure and have better, like, these are retrospective studies and report like, yeah, I play a lot, so how good the data is not great, but they have better cardiovascular health. And then that, it's hard to tease out like their mental well-being as well. But the cognitive aspect, there's actually, studies from the Journal of Cognitive Psychology that shows people having better problem-solving skills and decision-making when they integrate play into their life more. And so play can look like a lot of different things. And that's kind of something I want to talk about. I want to talk about what play can look like and then ways that we can integrate it, right? So that's
I mean, I'm on board. I'm ready to go. If I think about sort of like what kind of play, I think of obviously skipping, so like physical play.
Yeah.
But I can imagine that there's social or creative or other things that I'm not coming up with right off the cuff that are probably really beneficial.
Yeah, so like physical play, we think of like sports and exercise, but also like dance, and like anything where you're movement, right? Where there's lots of movement. And those we relate to mental health benefits, and also the cardiovascular health benefits. Then there's social play where you're doing things in games and groups and team sports. So maybe you may be physical, but you kind of have a component of the team sport social aspect of it. And then there's imaginative play, and I kind of like also group this a little bit with creative play, where you're thinking about a story, like you're having free time to write a story or paint or maybe you play music or you're learning a new instrument, that sort of play. And then there's games, so you think of board games or video games or some sort of structured play time where there's really a high level of cognitive function, and so those type of activities, as well as the imaginative and creative play, are really like leaning on your problem solving skills but also kind of promote your mental health and reduce stress. So you can kind of break them down into these sort of physical, but the physical ones have that mental health benefit to them, whereas the creative and games play, that cognitive aspect of it is really powerful. You can look at it. That's what Sudoku is a game, right? We know about the cognitive benefits of that.
I've been told multiple times from my older son that video games improve reaction time and are actually like incredibly beneficial for development of fine motor skills, and that I should therefore remove the time limit from the Xbox so that he can really dial up these skills.
Yeah.
But he's making a strong case, and he's sent me research articles, and I've looked at it, and I think as long as you're not like spending all day holed up in a dark basement gaming, there are definitely some cognitive improvements, some problem solving skill improvements, executive functioning, stress reduction. I mean, they're pretty cool, but I'm definitely not good enough at video games, I think, to get that kind of benefit.
Did you play video games as a kid?
Very little. I mean, we had some like, I'm definitely dating myself now, but like, some old school Atari action, and
Oh,
then,
yeah. Tombstone.
uh, played played a fair amount of Tony Hawk Pro Skater in
Oh,
my teens and early 20s.
yeah. So we did like we had the original Atari, like the like
2600.
yeah, the like I think that's what it was like. We played
Oh yeah.
Tombstone. We had Tombstone.
Heck
Is that
yeah.
the game? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Tombstone was
then
great.
we had the like original Nintendo, the like below here thing, and did a lot of that, and then I never played video games really then until I got to college. I would study until they closed the library, and I'd come home and all my roommates were playing James Bond,
Okay.
and I would partake in that. But that's about the limit of my. I haven't played
Yeah.
video games since then.
I'm much more of a social play person. I mean, now that we're
Yeah.
talking about it, like, what do I do regularly that's social play? We play a lot of ping pong in my house,
Oh,
and there are some
yeah.
heated matches, and there's some casual matches, but there's a lot of laughter and a lot of goofing off. And then I got to tell you, yesterday actually, I played pickleball with both of my kids. And my younger one's a big tennis racket sport, whatever, paddle sport.
Yeah.
That's his focus. So we play doubles, where my older son and I play against him, which is totally unfair in pickleball because the court is the same size.
Yeah.
So for singles or doubles, so we have a huge advantage, but it doesn't
He
stop
still
them
works
from
you over.
routinely walloping us. But at one point, the kids decided they wanted to play as if um, it was kind of like a Key and Peele skit where you were the worst mannered tennis player on earth. So as they would hit a ball, they would yell trash or I'm better than you or suck it or whatever. And I swear all three of us were intermittently like on the ground, just like curled up, belly laughing because it was so fun and so
Just
funny. And
like John
you don't get
McEnroe
that.
in it constantly.
Oh yeah,
Just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you're
How could you be
kidding
the worst? It was like the Happy Gilmore
me.
of pickleball yesterday, and there's something about just I definitely noticed this while it was happening. I had a moment where I was like, we are all goofing off as if we are 10 years old, and
Yeah.
it is absolutely magical. And like it didn't matter that my belly hurt, and I was moderately concerned that I might pee my pants on the pickleball court. I was laughing so hard. It
Yeah.
was it was really magical, and you don't get that out of the things that I usually think of as sort of self care for me, like whether it's meditating or yoga or like the more sort of I don't know austere stoic type
Yeah.
self care stuff. There's something just really magical, and again, it goes into the laughter talk that we had the last
Yeah.
time we chatted on the podcast. But it is there's something really special about those kinds of group activities and just really engaging in something as a team.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's for some people getting into a sport. Like I want to transition to like what we can do to introduce this in more life. Not all of us are big into pickleball or like have children that will crush you and mock you at that at that level that your children
It's
will.
a shame, actually. I'm thinking about
Yeah.
starting a nonprofit organization for
Yeah.
those who don't have children who can kick their butts at sports.
And everything. But so one of the things that you can get to have like that more physical aspect of play and the benefits from that. A lot of people join sports groups, join team. Whether it's softball leagues or pickleball leagues or whatever. They join some sort of activity. But there's also like exercise classes, which is a physical thing, but looking at it more from a social aspect. And there's things like Zumba and those types of no affiliation, but those types of sport of physical exercise, but also dance classes, salsa and doing those type of physical activities where you are active but you're social, and it sort of has a play fun atmosphere to it where you're learning something new. Dance is like a great one where you have that cognitive aspect, where you're really engaging your cerebellum, you're like really like thinking about your body and your movement. It's physical and it's social, right? So
Yep.
it's kind of like a nice combination. And then I think I encourage people to like do a new hobby, right? I think I wrote this down when I was writing this, is that I want to do something, learn something new. I don't know what that is yet. I don't know, but I need this year, like, to start something new, a new project, a new hobby, that I haven't brought into my life before. And then people join clubs, like whether that's a book club or like there's chess clubs, there's all kinds of activities that are kind of endless that you can do this when you start thinking about this. But what I encourage people to do is actually, similar to laughter, like, and hone out that time, find out what makes you laugh and makes you tick, and dedicate some time to that. Same thing here, like, carve out some time in your life, whether you do a board game, once a week or once a month or every other month, or go to a dance class, put yourself out there and to expand your mind, and also, like, do an activity that you wouldn't normally do.
I feel like you could pick one thing from, 2 or 3 categories even, and just work on doing each one a few times a month. And it would not take, you'd be talking about like 3 or 4 hours a month.
Yeah.
And I think the impact, the evidence is, yeah, sure, it's not randomized controlled trials, but the evidence that is out there is that you see stress reduction, you see improvements with cognitive function and memory, and reduced long-term cardiovascular risk. And like, where's the harm? I mean, I guess like, I was thinking while you were talking about some of the physical activities, this is, I think, part of why CrossFit is such a phenomenon is, lots of people in there, at least at the beginning, and often for the first several years, are learning something new. My friend has been working, not everybody's as physically gifted as you, Carl, but he's been working on doing a muscle up. I just remember when you were like, oh, how does this work? Oh, that's a muscle up. But he's been working on doing a muscle up for like just over a year now, and is making progress towards it. And it's learning this new physical skill, but doing it in a social setting where he's got people coaching and he's got other people cheering him on, and he's cheering people on for their progress. And I think that's part of why CrossFit is so special. And I guess if we're going to talk about risks, I don't think there's really any more risk with CrossFit than, say, with dancing or any other sport. I mean, I think that, sure, there's some physical risks of injury with moving your body, but that's sort of the price of admission. And you want to make sure you're doing things responsibly and trained in the right movements and all that. But, if you had, something, honestly, like yoga is that for me. I am a noob when it comes to yoga. I've probably done yoga like 30 times in my life. And I've started going pretty regularly to a place nearby, and I'm learning every time I go. And there's something, and there's people in the class who are, way more flexible or experienced with yoga. And there's people who are, shockingly less flexible and less experienced with yoga. And it's just really fun. I mean, you got to find a community where you feel comfortable putting yourself out there and not being, it's not a competition. And instead it's this playful activity to do together. So I think that's amazing. And then, I mean, what if you just met up with some people and went on a hike once a month, or tried, and skipped.
Hike.
Yeah.
Skipping hike.
Yeah. Painting, photography, musical instruments. Those are, all hobby stuff. I'm excited to see what the new Carl Seger hobby is. I mean, any ideas?
Well, I have a brother who's an amazing photographer, and I've always like looked at that and kind of was like, oh man, I'd really like to. And now, my oldest son, he's a big ski racer, and there's a guy there whose son is also a ski racer, he's a trauma surgeon, but he takes photos like all the time. He's like gotten really into it, and he's got like a giant camera that we all kind of make fun of him about, but I see his photos and I'm like, those are amazing, like aesthetically like that. But there's a learning curve. There's a cost to that. I don't know. So I'm debating that versus something that's like low cost, like maybe I'll just, gin rummy or cribbage. It's maybe.
Yeah. Get some bridge going. Yeah. No, digital photography is definitely a financial rabbit hole that you can find yourself deep in. My brother's a big photographer, and is a phenomenal photographer, and that's probably his I would say his biggest hobby is photography. But picked it up. Making this up, but maybe 15 years ago, and had really no experience with it before, and just steadily worked at it, and is now just takes phenomenal photos. So yeah, I'm excited to see what you got in store for us, Carl.
All right, man. Do you have something you want to add to your repertoire?
I mean, yoga is really the main thing I'm working on right now in terms of adding something new. I have I don't know how much we talked about this, but I played bass guitar for 30 years. And I really haven't played much in the last 5 years. And I probably haven't picked it up in about 2. And I'm sort of entertaining either getting back into it, or what seems even a little bit more fun to me would be learning a new musical instrument. So I'm thinking about what might fit the bill there. I want to learn a musical instrument that it's not that steep of a learning curve to get decent at, because I know myself, and if it's just if I were to pick up the saxophone, for example, I wouldn't last very long. But I'm looking for something with a little bit of a shallower curve for getting decent. And I don't know if that's is that ukulele, is a guitar? I'm not sure. Well, I think a stringed instrument is probably a safer bet for me, given that I've got some experience there.
The uke is nice. It's portable.
Yeah, and that's nice. Fun too. Yeah, it folds into campfires and outdoor family adventures pretty easily too.
Fair enough. All right, man. Well,
I'll report back. Yeah, man, this is great. And for folks listening who stayed on despite our personal exploration of what our own hobbies are going to look like, we appreciate you, and references to some of the evidence behind the widespread benefits, physical, mental, emotional, and beyond of play. We'll link to in the show notes. So thanks again, Carl. It was fun.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yep. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Wild Health Podcast. If you found it helpful, give us a 5-star rating and write a review on iTunes. It really helps the podcast, and we greatly appreciate it. If you want to be a client or you want to work with us, go to wildhealth.com. Thanks again.